Good afternoon, and it's really a pleasure to follow in behind Gene because a lot of what they do at the ARS station out at El Reno is very similar to what we strive to do there at the Noble Research Institute. And what I was going to focus on today was just specifically one of our new projects that we have undertaken this year, and it's our land stewardship program. And what we're trying to do, we've got a young man that's actually been working on a PhD, started it this year, where he's gone out and he is sampling, through an intense sampling set, 14 land stewardship focused ranches. And within these ranches, we've got several nationally recognized land stewardship award winners. So we're going to be taking a look at the metrics within these ranches from those that have had a long tenure of good management practices, though down to the point where Noble Research Institute on some of our farms, we're going to be looking at it as well. And we don't have the same historic methodology of managing the land that a lot of these land stewards have. So it's going to be an interesting concept, and you can see about how many acres that's involved. Some of the things that we're looking at doing is as we refer to the Soil Health Institute and some of the metrics that they've published here this year. We're going to be sampling in depth on all these ranches at multiple sites, taking a look at anything from the soil organic carbon through the soil texture. You can see all these other types of tests we're going to be performing on each of these different ranches. We're also going to be trying to take some sort of monitoring on the forage production and composition on these ranches, as well as looking at the water infiltration, water holding capacity, soil moisture, and soil temperature. Looking at the effects that management has had specifically on the water supply as well as looking at the biodiversity, as well as some of the other things as the presence of whether you have a healthy ecosystem or not, such as avian presence and abundance. So those are things we're going to be looking forward into the future. One of the things that we do know is that as we look at these different tests, it takes a lot of different metrics. And since we really don't know under this soil health set of metrics what's going to work best, well, we really want to know if you're trying to make recommendations to a producer, which set of tests do you really need to be monitoring? What are the very key metrics in order to better understand what your long-term outcomes are? So these are some of the tests that we're going to be conducting. All of them that you see there on your left-hand side of the screen are going to be conducted in that first 6 inches of the soil sample. But we're going to core down up to 36 inches, or how deep we can get the probe on some of these soils, and study soil organic carbon, total nitrogen, bulk density, and quick carbon. What we'd really like to be able to do is to begin to map across these landscapes their key metrics and put it into some sort of ecosystem services model that they can relate to, either from an ecosystem service market that could be used into the future, but more importantly, what's the difference that their management is going to have on the landscapes? If we could just look and track over time average infiltration rate or water holding capacity or percent organic matter, we can better understand what our metrics are relative to the key practices that we've been recommending. And as we know that our environment changes, we have times of severe flood to severe drought. How resilient are these landscapes over time? And then put it into some sort of metric that we all can understand either as a producer or as scientists. One of our properties that we're going to focus on and become one of our model ranches is our coffee ranch. It's about a 2,500 acre ranch that has a little bit of introduced pasture, as you can see in that little green there on the north end of this property. That's introduced pasture. The rest of it's all native range. You see all those little dots up there. These are the intense types of sampling that's going to be conducted across the entire landscapes. These represent several different soil types, range sites, and we're going to be doing that intense soil testing that you saw on that previous screen on each of these sites, as well as all 14 of these or 13 of these other land producers. We also are fortunate we have 3 streams that run through this ranch. The 2 on the left, those watersheds or those streams where that source begins is only a couple of 100 feet north of our property. So we can have a really good picture of what stream flow is on those 2 streams. And then the one on the far east, it is such that it is truly an intermittent stream that we can monitor flow rate as it comes on our property as well as it leaves. So we're pretty interested in seeing what these results will look like. And the neat thing about this is the watershed. A lot of the watershed that we see this ranch fits entirely within. So we're really fortunate to be able to look at maybe the long-term effects of our sampling on our watersheds. So this is just something that we're trying to do. We're going to be doing this type of sampling on multiples of our other operations, but this will be our model ranch as we go forward. Thank you.
All right. Good job. Thank you, sir.